Welcome everyone to the Meshery development meetings. Today is 13th of October and it's the KubeCon week. So the first topic we have for today is about KubeCon. So as we mentioned last week, Meshery is participating in this year's Bug Bash. So you might have seen a couple of PRs coming from the CNCF Bug Bash. So this is basically an event where you can fix bugs in Meshery and earn prizes or win prizes. So do check it out. If you are interested, there are a couple of bugs that have been reported and you can check in and fix those. We also have the Meshery project office hours happens today, so 13th October, and at 2:30 p.m. Pacific time. So it might be a late for a couple of people, but some of the Meshery maintainers will be joining the call and will be hanging out and talking about Meshery and showcasing Meshery. So if you are joining at KubeCon, feel free to jump in on our project office hours and yep. Check out that link in the chat. We also have the SMP project office hours that is on Friday. So also check that out as well. Lee, do you have something to say?
Yeah, well, come to those office hours. Come show your support. Come ask questions. Take a look at the roadmap. We'll be talking about roadmap later today for what's for Meshery between the .6 release that's happening now and 1.0. We'll also be telling people about the .6 release, like the fact that there's 3 new beta features and a whole bunch of other things included. So yeah, join. It is late for some of you that are on this call. The call on Friday, same thing. Meshery's performance management functionality is based upon the open specification service mesh performance. That's the name of the spec, service mesh performance. There's as a matter of fact, a couple of press releases went out today, just a little bit ago, about service mesh performance and Meshery, both of them. And so the world has a new standard, SMP. So there were some quotes from Intel, HashiCorp in there about the work that's going on. So there's a whole nother, this is a bit of a different initiative. It's a specification. Meshery is the canonical implementation of SMP, but jump in there as well. Like there are a number of things to do, particularly those of you who might be on the call that aren't whose focus isn't just coding. The SMP project has a number of initiatives around interacting with labs, getting into the CNCF labs, running a number of different tests, understanding different benchmarks, working with folks from Red Hat, HashiCorp, Intel, publishing, studying the results, publishing them. There's an IEEE paper that it publishes, I guess, sometime this month, but the group that's there wrote a paper. We're being asked to write a second one. It wasn't the hardest thing in the world to do that first one because we'd already done most of the work. The second one, though, should really talk about things that we haven't done yet, things about the benchmarks that need to be run. So particularly if testing is your thing, that's a great project to get involved in. The project itself, when we meet, we don't just talk about service mesh performance, we talk about Get Nighthawk. So next time we meet is actually on the 28th. A Googler is presenting, he'll be presenting on a C++ project, on the Nighthawk project. And we want to do some, intriguing things inside of Nighthawk. We want to create an adaptive load controller. So I won't go further into it than just to say there's different languages being used and a bit of a different skill set needed for some of what we're looking to do. Those graphs right there, those were produced by a grad student at the University of Austin or University of Texas, Austin, UT Austin. We've been engaged with a professor and a couple of grad students to do examinations like this. So like we talk about WebAssembly in SMP and Envoy and Nighthawk. And so, yeah, it's at first blush, I think a spec project is to be candid, like super, super boring. They tend to be, if they really become a standard, oh God, it's like every apostrophe, every, like it drags on forever. We're not there yet. There's a lot going on. So jump in. Even this site, Get Nighthawk, it needs some love. It generally captures what we're trying to do. But like some of the images on the site, those were only ever placeholders. Those are literally placeholder images that are on the site. And I think I've seen like 7, 8 people call out like, oh, I can only see half of the picture. It's like, yeah, it's just a placeholder. And I'm chuckling, not at the people who are calling it out. I'm like that 6 grid thing. I don't like what that is. I don't know. You know, again, just a placeholder. Like we should get something else up there. And by we, I mean, not me, any one of you. Utkarsh has taken some animated GIFs of how performance management works in Meshery. That's great. I don't know if Anirban is on, but anyway, there's a number of you who've done works around this. Manav is on right now. He's been fixing some things on the performance management functionality in Meshery, like screenshots of the new warning sign. That might be like that might be not like if we have that would be better than having placeholders on this site. So so I guess, yeah, there's a few things for any of you who are either didn't find your place in Meshery. SMP has got a whole nother set of concerns and activities going on. So there's a lot of room for people to step up. There's a lot of room to make new friends as well across the organizations that I was just mentioning. So as a matter of fact, I've some of the folks at Intel, I specifically said that we would get interns, we would have them engaged directly. So yeah, cool, good. Sorry to interrupt so much. I forgot that we had Meshery office hours later today. There's so much going on. Jump in there. I would so much like to never hear my voice speaking about Meshery, but hear your voices speaking about it. That would be wonderful. So hopefully this is the last KubeCon that I assist with office hours. I guess that gives everyone about a 6-month timer from here until KubeCon EU. Is the project itself isn't too far away from, you know, moving from sandbox to incubation. We want to prepare for that and get ready. Yeah, anyway, just good yeah, KubeCon's here. Speaking of Manav, it looks like he's got an agenda item. Nice.
And actually, Manav is next on our agenda. So Manav, carry on that momentum.
Yes, so I will share my screen. Oh, my screen is visible, I guess. Hello?
It might be. Are you running Meshery in the, what is it? Make run UI dev? Like, is it building the page real time?
Yeah. I guess it's slow on WSL. I don't know why it's quite slow when I'm using WSL. Yep. So there were three states when we deal with fetching data from charts. One is when the chart data is directly available, which directly fetches after every say 4,000 seconds. Then there is a state when data is not visibly available. We say that we will fetch the data and we will keep fetching. Three error states have arisen. 3 times we will fetch it, so that we can't get it back. Then we will stop fetching. So what was initially happening was when we were fetching data might not return back after 3 requests. So the chart data was paused with the previous state. No new data was getting fetched, and the error message was significantly displayed because the 3 requests were ended and we could not fetch it again. So that was the error which I dealt with. So what happens now that when the error state finishes 3 requests, it displays the error message. So if I stop the Grafana, and it will now don't be able to fetch data. So the loading states that we are trying to reconnect to Grafana. So we are trying to reconnect Grafana. 3 error states will rise. So we wait for the fetch request to finish. Yes, so now if 3 fetch requests are finished and we can't connect, so it's not displaying any data. Initially, it used to pause from the previous data. And if I restart the Grafana server, so I could use this refresh button to get the data again. It restarts the fetching time. So that's the changes I made. Is that
And I wish Dhruv Patel was on the phone right now to see this. His face might be flush. This is kind of embarrassing, Manav. I think this is the best update that I've seen to this area for a really long time. Like that's great, man. Yeah, I mean, this is just my comments, but others are welcome to comment. Like the UX is a bit sexy, where you've got the horizontal kind of like, not spinner, but the horizontal
progress bar.
Yeah. And then red, like actually that warning sign, we might want to change it to like there should be an orangish hopefully you have access to Figma. You might find something a little less dangers, like a little more of a warning than it is like red hot danger. I say that to also say that what was there previously was like a small bit of text that was in bold and in red. And really, like anytime people see red, like we're all taught red is very naughty, red is bad. Yeah. Things are not good. Whereas green is sort of the opposite of that. And so it's a nice improvement that like, hey, it's obvious that people like in the disk panel, you're not seeing anything. People don't need like a red ugly thing in their face reminding them that they're looking at a broken interface. Like that rather what you've done is a bit more subtle, and which is nice. It doesn't mean that we could potentially say something in there. We could potentially improve upon this by having like a blurred like an intentional placeholder image that's like a blurred chart that shows them that something would be there, but they're currently not seeing anything. So it's not just totally blank. But I don't know that you should take any of what I'm saying and put it into action just yet. Like we might want to do a mock-up or something. Like the words, there was an error communicating with the server. They might make sense to, like, I know that you just got done removing them. If they were put back on the panel, they don't have to be red anymore. Like you're already giving them the warning sign and they're already not seeing things. And anyway, I guess what I'm trying to articulate is you've made some changes that indicate the same thing to the user. They're done in a more subtle way. You've added functionality around the progress indicator, which is a lot nicer. You've added functionality to timeout after the three requests. And then the individual panel refresh, that's nice. Yet too often, I think one of the problems that we've had in this area in the past is that, like, especially, by the way, just nomenclature for everyone that's looking at this, is that we're looking right now at 4 panels, CPU, disk, and 2 other ones. Those panels are contained within a board. And these terms, this nomenclature, this is sourced from Grafana. So if you're in Grafana, you'll load up a Grafana board, a dashboard. In your dashboard, you might have any number of panels, any number of charts. And we're just doing the same thing here. And so my point is like, we're looking at a board that has at least 4 panels on it. Meshery allows you to load up multiple boards. It only lets you look at one of those boards at a time. So it has this accordion right now is how you nav. And so there's a lot of power in here. Most users never get here. And we've struggled to kind of get people here. We're almost there. We're almost to the point where Meshery should just provision a Prometheus and start to collect its own metrics without waiting for someone to provision a Grafana and a Prometheus. Yeah. But so yeah. Anyway, just a bunch of random feedback just to say, like, one, hey, great job, like some good steps. One thing that, like, I don't know, you know how we time out after 3 fetches, and on one hand, that's like good. So we don't just sit there burning the user's CPU with a bunch of fetch requests that aren't going to go anywhere because the data source isn't available. I don't know to what extent we're able to just back off after that, and like only fetch once every 30 seconds, once every minute or so that eventually, if Grafana did come back, the charts would, start again without manual intervention.
Yeah, we could do that. We could place a series of, say, squares after, if.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be much. It might just be like one additional, a small additional piece of logic that includes, like, hey, once we've given up on those first 3, then fine, every minute thereafter, make an attempt, and leave it at that or something. Yeah. The spinner would probably go away, though, to your point, or the indicator would probably go away.
Yep, I will try to add.
Anyway, this is great. I'd like to catch up with you to explore, and anyone else who wants to catch up, but just to explore, like, what to do next. Because it's really powerful stuff. It's buried in the UI. More and more, this works. Like, for such a long time, it had been a troubled area. People had blamed the Grafana SDK, and I think that was probably true. But yeah, we need to get some on the main dashboard. We just need to start to expose a few things. Some of those things, it doesn't have to be like, these line charts are pretty. Doesn't have to be this. It can just be a big fat number, just a simple digit that says, I don't know, number of service meshes under management, or for things like some of the adapters, like the Nginx adapter. How many versions of Nginx does Meshery interact with? And maybe for all the and anyway, I guess I'm just so randomly thinking, but the point being is, like, the dashboard itself, the main dashboard, it needs to completely change, and it's time that we get some mock-ups going. You all are welcome to make suggestions every which way. Jump into Figma, drop in some ideas. Cool. Good. Anybody else want to give some random feedback to Manav like me? So Utkarsh had made a couple of color tweaks to the performance test results and the chart that was being used in there. He was bringing the coloring of the charts a little more in line with the theme that's defined in Figma. Manav, if for nothing else, like you might be able to do the same with a few of the colors here.
Okay.
Nice. The tooltips, like in general, we're landing right now somewhere between Roboto and Open Sans as the fonts that are being used. And you might take a look at what's being used in those tooltips. The tooltips themselves don't have rounded edges. We might want to round those corners off, like just a few. Nice. Cool. Okay, I was just kind of waiting for other feedback, but so also, Manav, we've got this nasty like habit of building up layer upon layer in the UI. So if you hover your mouse on the very like light gray background of the, yeah, so whatever that is, so whatever that is, layer one, then we go to layer two, which is the first card, the first there. And then if you go down, we've got Meshery results, like even further down. Anyway, my point is by the time you get to the charts, by the time you get to the panels, we're about 3 or 4 layers deep, 3 or 4 material paper layers deep. So if you get down to like pilot versions or the disk chart, it becomes even more obvious. Like,
yes, please.
Yeah. So one of those we can get rid of potentially. Yeah, cool.
All right. Thank you, Manav. Are there any comments? All right. Thank you for the demo, Manav. Next up, we have Piyush giving an update on the unit test coverage in Meshery. So, Piyush, could you talk about it?
Oh, hi. Okay, so there is an update about Measuringctl. Oh, wait a second, not Measuringctl test coverage. There is a link attached here. If you click it, you'll get to the page of CodeCorp. CodeCorp is the thing which actually calculates the code coverage in Measuringctl. So recently we kind of crossed 30% mark. Okay, this part, Measuringctl. And as the sub point of this agenda says calls for participation, like we want people to come and write unit tests for like Measuringctl. Okay, so how do you write it? There is a guide just below, which actually will help or kind of give some hints around how to start writing it and what kind of things we follow while writing them. Okay, so if you have any doubts in this guide, you can actually connect me in Slack, or you can write in Measuringctl channel here. So we can assist you around that thing. There is an issue. Let me show you where. If you click here on issues, there is a big issue that is kind of a goal thing, which is to reach 80% mark. Right now we are at 30%, like we crossed 30%. Let me get back. There it is. Yeah, it is 30%. Okay. And the next goal that we want to reach, that is 40%, which is kind of attached here with the version 0.7.0. So that's the next step we have to do. And like now the question is, how do I find where do I have to write the test? Like which area requires the testing? Okay, the code will help you here. You need to log in, by the way, to like kind of go to the files, exactly check what are the lines being covered, which are not. So you'll check here, like this is only 12%, 17%. So config.go doesn't have a test file yet. And the test coverage here is right now 12%. If you click here, you can actually check what are the lines being covered yet and what you need to write to get them covered. Like this function, and the whole file. That's how you can figure out what are the areas that needs the coverage, and you can write tests about those files for those files. And that's how we will reach the next milestone, that is 40% test coverage in Measuringctl. I think that's enough for now. I'm not so sure.
Yep, that sounds really great, Piyush. Thank you for taking this up. Like 30% is a long way we have come. So I'm sure like a lot of people have been helping to get this number up. So yeah, if you are interested in this, get involved, reach out to Piyush and help get the numbers up. Right.
Question, if I might. In CodeCov, Piyush, does it assist with identifying who might, like a leaderboard for who is helping get the code covered?
Like,
be really.
Yeah, you mean the name, the person, like kind of leaderboard thing, no?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't tell that, but it does tell like which PR is increasing the highest numbers.
I see. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting to identify those few individuals and uplift them in their works. Huh. Okay. Yeah. If something comes to mind about how to, something not manual that comes to mind about how to identify those people, like, because like it's all in there. The usernames that, you know, completed that coverage, the way that CodeCov is creating a percentage, and like that, it should be there. Should be. Mario just randomly, or Jared, you guys don't, are either of the two of you very familiar with CodeCov as a tool? Like, I wonder if, or if we were to get access to Meshery's CodeCov, if that's something you might want to try to look into.
To writing unit tests, or what specifically regarding?
Well, to figuring out, to getting a leaderboard for which contributors have contributed the most code coverage, to be able to highlight people and their efforts. So I don't know if that's a report that could be built, or if it's an out of the box report in there somewhere.
I can check. I'm not that familiar with CodeCov. Can look and see if there's a functionality for that.
Yeah, that might be. Yeah, it might be nice. There's Piyush and Rodolfo are probably the two individuals to see if credentials are needed. I think for the free account that the project has, I think there's like 5 or so accounts that can be created, and if we spill over, we can go request a CNCF to maybe help us out. But yeah, it'd be really nice to encourage those that have helped with code coverage with those unit tests, and then hopefully to encourage others to step up and get some things covered. Because even for to put this in context, so we hit 30%. Good. that's on the wrong side of 100% or of a much higher percentage. But Piyush has been championing this, just kind of beating the drum and helping get things through, which is great. And there's been a number of contributors that have come to help get the number up. It's great. What's unfortunate is that much of what we're talking about, I think, is primarily within Meshery CTL and not necessarily the rest of Meshery, which means that we've got a long way to go. So yeah, if there is a report, we'll probably use it quite a bit because it'd be really nice to, yeah, recognize people.
Just from a brief glance, I don't see anything obvious in there. I can keep looking a bit, but I don't see anything obvious in the CodeGov documentation.
Oh, okay. Dang. Curious, has anyone spent a lot of time in CodeGov? Just in case, okay. Yeah, and it may not be something that they facilitate. So that's too bad. Huh, okay. Cool, 30% though, nice.
Thanks, Piyush. Next up, we have Darren. Darren has been working on updating Meshery CTL to use HemCharts. Darren, would you like to talk about your recent PRs?
Yep. Let me share my screen first.
Sure.
So I have 2 PRs for that migration. One is under the Mesh-Kit repo, and then the other one, of course, under the Meshery repo here. First, I will talk about the PR under the Mesh-Kit repo because that's the utility functions that we are using in Meshery CTL to do the installation using the HemCharts. So yeah, so basically I updated this library so that we support the upgrade, well, the hem upgrade command basically, because previously we did not support the upgrade for the function that we had for applying the HemChart. So I basically did that, and then to do that, basically I just let's go through from the beginning. On the left is what we have right now in the master branch, and on the right is what I have in my branch. So I basically added like 3 constant variables: uninstall, that stands for installing the HemChart; upgrade, for upgrading HemChart; install for installing the HemChart. So those are used for checking what the user wants to do. And then I basically deleted this delete Boolean variable because previously we only had like 2 actions. One is delete, the other one is create or install. But now since we have 3, so I think it's better to not have a Boolean variable. Well, if we want to keep it, we will need to have other Boolean variable for create and upgrades because there are like 3 cases now. So I basically just replace that with a string of action, and then I would go back to why we use this as a string. So here's one example. In line 254, we check if this action is installed, and then it is. We want to check the HemChart is already existed in the cluster or not, because Hem doesn't really support, well, Hem install at least is not idempotent. I remember one of my reviewers mentioned that, and then so to make it kind of idempotent to the user is basically we check if the action is installed, and then I have a function to check if the user, well, if the cluster already had the release that the user is going to install. If it is, then basically just update the action from install to upgrade, because Hem does support upgrading a HemChart from A to B, even though A and B are the same. So that's what this little part is. So yeah, that's why I use, you know, string variable instead of Boolean. Otherwise, you have it just, well, in my opinion, just a little bit cleaner or more cleaner than we have one, you know, Boolean variable to try to figure out which one of the, well, which cases is from the 3 cases. And then I also updated, I think that's, oh yeah, I also updated the generate action. So this is the function that, so when it comes to here, we actually do the either one of the cases or the action that we want to do, either install, upgrade, or the default is install. So we using the Hem API called new install to do the new uninstall for the uninstallation, and then same for the upgrade, and then for the install. This part really had that before, the install, and then the same for the uninstall. The only part I added is the upgrade. So that's what I have for the PR under the mesh kit. And yeah, one of my reviewers, Ashes, I think he brought up the backward compatibility issue because I deleted this variable and then I added another string to do the condition checking. But I am concerned that, you know, keeping these Boolean variables along with the new fields, well, the action string that I added is confusing to the, you know, to the viewers of the code. And then in terms of the backward compatibility, I think we do need to sacrifice that, you know, sometimes, you know, to improve the existing code base, plus the fact that, you know, all the adapter installation code, they won't break until they upgrade the mesh kit to the newest version after these PRs merge. So I don't really see the backward compatibility is a big issue here. But yeah, I'm open to, you know, any other suggestions if there are any, either in a call or, you know, offline on the PR. But that's all I have in this PR. And then yeah, this is just like this just serves as a utility function for the actual work in the system start, system update, and system stops. So in here, that's what the main things are happening. Let me do the compare. Oh my God, there's so many windows. Yeah, so the one on the right again is my branch, and then basically I deleted a lot of the, like all these, you know, downloading manifest and then overriding some values in the manifest and then applying the manifest, because they are all actually done in one API from the mesh kit that we just saw. That is the apply HemChart function API. So what we need to just pass in the HemChart URL. I have that set as a constant variable, and then that points to the HemChart location that we publish, and then the HemChart name, of course, and then, you know, it's Meshery because that's what the HemChart is called in that location. And then this is just the HemChart version that we specify. And then I have a little, you know, part that figure out the, like, which chart version we want to do, basically, you know, because we got this Meshery image version, it's basically just the version stored in the context. And then if it is not latest, then we know it's either like one of the older versions called, let's say we 0.5.5, something like that. And then we pass that to this API, and then this API will pull that version of HemChart down. And then here is the valued override. This is equivalent to what we had in the manifest, that overriding the HemChart in the, well, not the HemCharts, the plain manifest in the file system. But here instead, we don't override the values, but we use the the existing features provided by Hem, by basically setting the override value. If you do it in the terminal, basically just like Hem install blah blah blah, and then that's the set, and then just do whatever value you want to override. For here, I override the image.tag. So basically, just image.tag equals to channel version. So that's basically what this little field is about. And then this has to match the HemChart that I basically also changed in the PR because not here. That's HemChart. Yeah, here. So basically I split this repository into two fields. One is called repository, and then the other one is the tag, because that's the image tag. So in this code, I override this tag into whatever version that the user is using for the Measuringctl. So that's what that is about for the start. And then it's the same logic for system stop and update. Instead of overriding all particular values in the manifest, we just pass in the override values into these applied HemChart functions that we had in the Mesh-kit, and then specify the actions here if you want to do install or upgrade or the uninstallation. And yeah, that's basically what I have, I believe. Oh, one thing to mention in the stop command is that, let me do the compare with branch. No. One thing I wanted to bring up in the stop is that, so hem natively, if you do hem uninstall, there's a caveat that it doesn't delete the CRs and the CRDs that you have in the HemChart. So in order to do a clean uninstallation, we have to do, invoke the, I had to create a function, to delete the CRs and then delete the CRDs. That's what this is about. So invoke delete CRs basically calls the wrapper function here that deletes the CR instance that we have in the cluster, which is the broker, and then the Meshery broker, that's the actual instance name, and then the Meshery mesh sync. And then this guy, it just calls the function called delete CR that actually do the dirty job for us. So this is just like a wrapper for calling this function. And then this function will delete whatever resource you specify, you ask me to do, And then the same for the CRDs. I have like a wrapper function, and then that calls the other function that do the actual job of deleting the resources that we specify in this wrapper function. And then, yeah, so enough for, talking. Let's do the quick demo first. So I just do a make to update my Measuringctl in my local machine. CTL system start, specify the platform. So yeah, so from the user's perspective, this actually works the same as before. So as you can see here, we have all the we have Meshery and then all the adapters installing, and then we have the broker coming up, and then we have a mesh thing coming up as well. But both of them, they will need a little bit of time to get up and running. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention is that so previously we download the manifest to a folder called address that called tutor/.meshery, but now the mesh could actually download that to the /temp. But if we really wanted to download to the same location, I can easily change that one in the mesh kit. But then, so for these 4 points that Nawandu just mentioned in my PR, I think the only thing that's not resolved is the second point. Sorry, it's the second point, because we don't actually override the values in either start or update with the utility function in the mesh kit, but we did that previously in the manifest. I'm not that's the only thing that I'm not really sure about. Like, I don't know if we really want to override the value in the HemChart.
Oh, quick thought. So Darren, on that, I don't know what the suggestion is on the first one, but I'll suggest, maybe this is the same thing that's suggested, but that we would not use the /temp for anything.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's just some inconsistency between the Meshery and the I can change that very easily.
Yeah. So, is Husseina? Yeah, Husseina. As we talk about that, do you recall if the bash script that installs Meshery, it is using a /temp or not?
Yes, it uses to unzip the files. So anyway, we are going to change that to tar format, right? I think around that time we can take care of getting away from temp directory as well.
Nice. Yeah.
Actually, so two things from my side. One thing that we were also doing in manifest-based installation was that we were selectively passing a few environmental variables. If you would pass an environmental variable called Meshery_server_custom host or something, I don't exactly remember the environmental variable. That particular environmental variable would be passed onto the Meshery server also. So it would be, it was at least being appended to the environment of the container of Meshery server. So are we, and I think we'd be doing that with overrides, Helm overrides. Is that thing being covered? Because I couldn't actually see it in the code.
I don't think so. Is that in, okay. Can you point it out in the PR? Because I probably missed that part in the
I'll actually point it out in
manifest.
the PR.
Okay.
Yeah, and second is, we are right now deleting custom resources in Meshery, and I think probably we can move this into Meshery. The Meshery, so now that we have action names, so in that delete case, we can actually probably get rid of the custom resources also. And I think it should fix some of Jared's issue also, because one of the issue that he was facing was that the custom resources were not getting deleted from the system, and that is why the second installation was getting failed.
Right.
Is that right, Jared? I think that was your issue. That is, the custom resources were not getting cleaned up, and you had to do it manually, and then the installation was working fine.
Yeah, I believe that's what happened, in the master branch right now, because, that's like a caveat in Hem. It does not manage the CRDs well enough. You can actually read about it in there. I don't know. I saw that install caveat, if I spelled it correctly. Yeah, so this one, if we go to this page, and then there's a caveat that, yes, some caveats and explanation. So it actually talked about there's no support at the time for upgrading or deleting CRDs using Hem. So even though, you are trying to delete the entire HemChart, and then in your HemChart, you have the CR and CRDs, this command, the Hem uninstall, it does not delete that for you. That's why I had to create two functions to delete the CRs instance and the CRDs, so that the system can be cleaned up. I can show you now. So right now, all the parts, all the resources, CRDs, I have brokers, and then the mesh sync, they are all installed properly. If I do the system stop, then hit yes. First of all, you can see all the parts are getting deleted. And then if I go to CRD, all the CRDs are gone, because, I have those two functions to delete the CR instance and the CRDs. And then namespace, I'm not sure if it deletes the namespace or not. It does not delete the namespace, but I'm not sure, how big the deal is to not delete the namespace. But it doesn't really affect the functionality, because you can do after you stop that, you can do the start again. Everything would work fine, because all the resources got cleaned up properly.
I think it is worth moving probably this PR can get merged, and then we can move slowly the cleanup thing into Measuringctl also, because it's quite important, and it should fix Jared's issue, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And also, to the point of idempotent is, so now I have already run that once, and then I want to, run it twice. I can do that. It's not going to report any errors that Hem would report, because if you do the same installation twice, Hem will complain that you already have that release installed in the cluster. But since I have that changes, it does not do the it doesn't show the errors. It just indicates that the system is running to the user, so that he can or she can open the browser to play around with the system. And then the same, because underline is using the system upgrade command. So I think that's all I have to cover. Oh, actually, I think I wanted to cover one thing. I'm not sure if it is a bug or not, or it's specific to my environment. Let me go to the so now I am in the the UI. If I want to install something, right, the ping is successfully to the adapter Linkerd, and then if I want to install that, it's not showing up now, because what I saw was I was seeing this. That is the error, and then I wanted to install the NSM, and then the NSM crashed because of this panic. I'm not sure if it is a known issue or just...
It is a sort of a known issue.
Oh, okay.
The reason. Wait. What happened? You get what panics?
So during my testing, like last night, so now it's working fine. So when I wanted to install something, let's say the Istio, right, and then it pings, the pings to the adapter is good, but then I wanted to install that, the UI would show an error of end of file to the server, and then that specific adapter will crash with an error of panic. It's basically from because of the index out of range. I don't know what happened, because when
actually this comes in probably either you had VPN issue or so.
Okay.
By default, adapters try to install the latest one. In order to get the latest version, they actually use GitHub API. So what does happen sometimes with Mishop's version 1, which we are using in the UI, that those queries fail, and that is why you won't have anything in the array, and it will try to find out the first one, and that actually,
but it shouldn't. But I would see this as a bug, because it shouldn't crash, right? The adapter shouldn't crash to try to access the resource that it doesn't have. So
yep.
Well.
Ideally, the panic, we know the reason of the panic, but ideally the adapters try to gracefully recover from the panic, and they do. I'm not sure why this time it crashed and failed. It probably didn't restart either for you, but one of the things is that we should do immediately probably is to first check that is the length, like the basic checks. Even after that, actually, we have in all of the adapters, we have graceful recovery from the panics by default. So not quite sure why it crashed.
It does restart. Well, the pod, it does restart. But I'm in the container, and then if I tried a couple more times, I think one of them got succeeded at the end. Yeah, but yeah, I think that's all I have. It's taking a lot of the time. And please let me know if you have any questions in the either offline or in the PR. I'll stop sharing now. Thank you.
Wait, is Darren done? Is that it? That's it?
Yeah, that's I mean that's it's already taking a lot of the time.
Yeah, no. I'm just I thought you were going to present like what's going on.
Well, you mean the crash?
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to be super sarcastic with you.
I was able to reproduce it. Probably I got lucky
Yeah.
because of you are here. You know, the bug actually got scared.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Just a bad.
but all the stuff that I have for the migration, I have already shown here, you know, including demo. So
Yeah, no, this is great. A bad joke on my part, actually, to be serious for a moment. It actually just hearing you go through it inspires confidence that you're wrapping your mind around, you know, that you're being diligent with the variety of aspects of concerns of like, you know, what happens upon delete, what happens upon update, what happens upon installation. Hey, as I was going through and experimenting with other adapters, here's because you were using the system enough, a GitHub API rate limit occurred. Yeah, hey, there's two things that are kind of an issue there. One is we should probably design a better system that like doesn't use that API as heavily. There's I think a design spec coming forth for kind of for caching there, so that we're not querying so much. And then two, understanding that whether it was a rate limit or just network connectivity, yeah, the adapter shouldn't fall over. I think part of what Utkarsh was saying is that there's a number of components in Meshery that have undergone a re-architecture, and they're more or less, the components are in a V2 architecture, if you will. And the NSM adapter and the CPX adapter, I believe, are and the Octarine adapter. The Octarine adapter is essentially going away. That one will be sort of converted into the VMware Tanzu service mesh. Octarine was acquired by VMware. And so, so these last two standing adapters have yet to be, at least as near as I recall, that they don't leverage Meshery yet. And so they're missing some of the more robust, some feature. I mean, they might use Meshery for certain aspects, but they're not using patterns and pattern components. And we've invested less there because in part, those two adapters were created by those service mesh projects. I just reached out to Citrix folks a week ago, trying to get a sense of where they're at with their service mesh and how we should continue to sustain that adapter. So as a side note, but yeah, this is great. I'm kind of surprised that understanding Helm itself went through a V2 architecture, kind of displacing Tiller and getting rid of Tiller and coming to a better architecture that even now it still seems to smell like poop to me. Like Helm, that's surprising that it doesn't take care of some of these things like custom resources or deleting of namespaces or that type of thing.
Well, deleting the namespace it's probably not a job of the Hem. You know, the only caveats that they have is the CRDs, because I don't know why they have been having trouble in managing the lifecycle of the CRD. I remember that they used to have that, you know, the uninstallation of CRD, and then, you know, the website says after some heavy discussion in the community, they decided not to touch that in the uninstallation. So I do not know why, but that is probably implementation specific to the project.
People probably store state in those CRDs and don't necessarily want to lose them as they do that. But even at that, it's not like, from my perspective, if I was there, I would have suggested that there were options around that, like flags to control that behavior.
Yeah, but
moreover, if a piece of software, if you install a piece of software and it creates a namespace, whatever it creates, if you install Microsoft Word on your system and it creates a partition on your disk to separately store your Word documents, you go to uninstall Microsoft Word, you might expect that it would like undo the changes that it's done. So like the fact that Helm doesn't undo the namespace, again, like, I don't know, I would make an argument that, yeah, anyway, neither here nor there. I'm still gonna call it a steaming pile of cow dung anyway. So thanks for getting your hands dirty, Darren.
No problem.
On the countdown, just to be clear.
Just stop sharing.
Cool. So guys, to summarize that real quick, sounded like we were gonna. It sounded like we might press forth with that breaking change, understanding that sometimes to progress that's necessary to improve. That we would kind of control the rollout of the mesh kit. That would be a known item that as we bump version to the new library of mesh kit, that there would be an update needed in each of the adapters. But so with respect to V060 and shift to Helm, there's a couple of questions in here, like how comfortable are those that are reviewed feeling with merging this? Jared, do you think that this does address some of the challenges that we were seeing with the Nginx install?
It might, but one of the things was the service account. I don't know if this addresses that.
This does not address that because I think that is a small issue that lives in the HemChart for the Nginx. So I was planning to take care of that after, all these Meshery CTL changes. But I don't expect that take up a lot of my time to fix that small bug because that's just a permission thing. But to clarify that these PRs don't address that service account permission issue.
Cool.
All right. Thanks, Darren. I guess we will leave some comments on the review after going through it in the leave reviews in the PR after going through it once again. We are out of time, but we still have a couple of topics to discuss. So if you have to be anywhere else, feel free to drop out. Barik, would you like to discuss about your topic and your open PR?
Yeah, sure. This should be a quick discussion actually. So I'll share my screen. Yeah. So this is the thing that I want to discuss about. So this is mainly on the front end side. So one of the behavior that we want in the mesh map is, so if you're aware that we have like something like extension in Meshery, and when we click, so if you're enrolled to the alpha program, you'll have a new additional tabs on your left side of the Meshery UI. So here, if you click on it, it won't actually give you like a collapse thing, because so we want it, we desire it to be collapsible, because in this case, because the extension itself is like a canvas, and we want to have like, we want to like use the whole screen. We want to use the whole screen, and in this case we want the sidebar to be collapsed. Yeah. So this is just a simple implementation, but I think so in this PR I did the implementation on the front end side. So it will, if you can see on the code itself, well, I implemented the callbacks for, I implemented the callbacks according to the href that the extension is have. So in this case, if the extension is mesh map, then I trigger the sidebar to be collapsed. And by default, the sidebar is opened by, yeah. By default, the sidebar is open. And And now after through the reviews, I think it is desired that this behavior, the callback on a particular extension will be defined on the backend side, or in this case, the Meshery call. So we were just wondering how to exactly represent these callbacks in terms of database field. Yep. So yeah, I think that summarizes the actual problem.
Yeah, in my mind, a plugin that loads in Meshery should, as it's defining the menu items that it wants to have shown in that extension point, that there should be a consideration for behavior of what happened, what the desired behavior that the plugin has for an item that's clicked. And so there should just be an attribute associated to each menu item that is optionally supplied by a plugin. That in this case, it would be if they want it to collapse, that they would specify that.
Mm.
But yeah, that no specific extension should be called out in Meshery server, just a generic, just a placeholder for a plugin to specify the behavior that they want. And if they don't specify, the default behavior is just, like you'd said, to remain open.
Yep. All right. So do we really want this to be shifted on the backend side, like the declaration of what callbacks this is?
I think so. Yes, that's we should let the providers decide what the behavior should be, and there could be two ways we can achieve this. One is, as I was mentioning, the review also. That is, one of the way could be that we define some constants, like these are the actions that you can select from, like collapsing the drawer or something, because that would be easier to implement on the Meshery UI side. Meshery UI can declare, predefine some of the actions, and in the capabilities, we can select, we can mention that this is the behavior of this particular extension point. So now the provider gets to choose that what extension gets loaded in what way, because there could be multiple extensions. So this is one of the way. In the second, more difficult but far more flexible way is that we. So right now we do code injections to load these plugins. We can also do code injection for the sidebar icon and the in the entire entire entry. We can do code injection for that also. That is, when you click, the entire code that gets executed, that comes from the provider. That would be difficult to achieve, not on the provider side, but on the UI side, because we will have to again create a new sandbox, if you would, yeah, and then we will have to load the stuff and execute it. So probably we can, because the requirement is extremely simple, at least at the moment. We can go with the first way, and that is let UI define predefined behaviors like collapse, sidebar, or maybe zoom something or something, a predefined set of actions, and let the provider choose that this is the behavior when you click on the sidebar. I hope that made sense.
Yeah. So just to summarize, so I think inside the providers, we should add a new additional field called callbacks or on click something, and then inside the database we can just like provide an enumeration or like an index numbers. For example, 0 on the Measury UI docs would declare that this provider would like the cyber to be stay still, not collapse, and 1 declares it to be like collapse. And going along the way, if we want to declare a new kind of like callbacks, we can just add to the Measury UI docs and then implement the callbacks according on the UI side.
Hence, when we get this this field particularly from the backend, we can just map it onto the Meshery UI side. Does it sound good?
Yep. Yeah.
Right. What do you think, Lee?
Yeah, to be forthright, to be candid, like I didn't listen to a damn thing that was like in part because I'm an ignoramus on some of the specific, like we are successful so long as an extension. So to define an extension point, we have a system wherein we afford for an integrator to modify, to augment the overarching system behavior. We have to take care to not let people blow up the rest of Meshery. Like, let's say that they included some weird value, like in that extension point that we're talking about, or they included a script or like a SQL thing. Like, it needs to be somewhat secure. We shouldn't let them specify weird things. We shouldn't let them both try to collapse and uncollapse, like expand at the same time. Like that. These are principles and properties that what any extension point should be. They should be agnostic to any explicit or specific plugin. Like like no plugin should be called out in Meshery server itself. It should be dynamic. Like the part of the plugin is like it is a communication between, when you plug something in, it's like dynamic communication between my system and this via USB-C, that it's saying I'm this type of microphone, you should represent this type of volume or whatever. Like, so anyway, but the same thing with the plugins is like, oh, dynamically there should be an exchange. And so I think that, yeah, it can make a lot of sense that there is some of this that gets tracked in Go. As a matter of fact, I don't know that it'd be kind of, I think you probably have to go out of your way to avoid having consideration for this in Go. We do want to validate, like to the extent that a plugin misspells the word collapse or whatever indicator that we're using, like we want to capture that and not let someone else break Meshery UI. That the tab index, I heard tab index, that's about all that I'd heard, but yeah, that there isn't, for the extension point to be robust, we don't have to go too far here, but we do want to consider that a given plugin, a given remote provider may want to insert, a few different menu items. As they do, they might also have a child level. They might have a menu with like sub-menu items. That if we're considering for that's a bit more of a robust plugin. We don't have to spend, as a project, we don't have to spend a ton of time there in advance of solution providers bringing that use case. But if it's simple enough to consider for now, great. If we can also, like, we would want to do things like auto sort by alphabetically, but also potentially allow them to specify that tab index, or to specify not literally the tab index, but the sequence, stuff like that. We don't have to go banana. We don't have to go nuts on, making it the most polished API that you've ever seen. Like, it does all the things that anybody could ever want to do, letting them colorize and change the colors of the menu and all that. Like, but anyway, point is, like, I think the mark of success here is, so long as there isn't specific consideration in Meshery server that's really only works for that plugin.
All right, this sounds good. All right, I'll continue with the PR then.
Nice.
Thanks.
Yeah. It's good. There's one other, I know we're well over time. Those that are here don't have anything better to do. So Rudraksh, mostly, we've been talking about release drafter and auto labeling. And I think a lot of the reason that we've talked about it as much as we have is mostly like my distraction on not paying attention to the conversation at hand, I think. and a bit of confusion about access and personal access tokens and not knowing history around conflict with auto labeler bots and welcome bots and stuff. Did you've sent some messages? I haven't read them. Are you ready for experimentation? Like near as I could tell, it like somewhat related but orthogonal. The problem that we're experiencing right now is that one of our workflows is failing because we're referencing a GitHub token in a deprecated way.
Actually, no, that's not the problem. We are using the GitHub token in the right way. That workflow works fine on commits to master branch, but doesn't work on commits to pull request. That is because GitHub does not allow certain types of tokens to be used in pull request for security reasons. The release drafter, we plan to use it as the auto labeler because it provides that functionality. And for that, it had to be run in pull request, and it used the general token that we use for release drafter, which is a PAT. But the thing is that GitHub reads the permission of that token first, and it finds that it has a write access, so it doesn't give that token to the workflow. And that's why it is not working in PRs. A contributor has some, Aditya has some work up for moving to a different action for doing auto labeling based on file names. But the thing with that is we have had bad experiences in past because of this. I mean, it conflicts with the other label commenter action, which comments stuff based on labels. So I guess we can't even use that action. We need to probably use some trick around creating a different workflow using the same release drafter action, which doesn't really need that token because we don't really need a PAT in pull request. So yeah, basically the thing around access token is what is causing the failure in pull request, and which is not at all affecting release drafts right now. I just checked they are up to date with the latest PRs.
Nice. Okay. Is it possible that calling one workflow from the first workflow might be a way to circumvent the...
I mean, that actually calling the other workflow would, I mean, if we just run a single workflow, we won't even need to run the other one. A new workflow could be made which just uses the GitHub token instead of the release drafter part and is still able to update the label because GitHub token has enough permissions for updating labels on pull request. And yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we might want to take a risk and maybe under the assumption that the conflict between the welcome bot and the labeler bot is maybe gone. I don't know. And then, or to put a pin in this and just like decide which one is more important, like categorized and clean release note, or even cleaner release notes, or welcoming of new users, new contributors.
I mean, no, we don't have to be so picky. I think we can achieve both of them. Like, we can be happy and we can keep contributors happy as well. So yeah, if we want to try out if there is any conflict between the bots right now, yes, we can. Probably that PR would handle that. I mean, it uses the other bot for labeling, so that would be a check if it works out or not.
Good deal. So yeah, as the maintainer there, yeah, please just make the executive decision. Or I don't know, you're well informed. You're as informed as I am on the problem now, and actually I think better informed. And so, yeah, do what you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Think about it and do what you want to. Okay. Nice. Thanks. I think that's a wrap. So we'll see everybody at the office hours later, or as many people who can stay awake. And Manav, I'll catch up with you. By the way, if you guys don't know, Vedant on the call just got his Meshery badge today, or will be very soon. So congrats, Vedant. Pretty cool. To tell us the name of the tattoo parlor that you're going to. We'll send a reimbursement. We'll make sure they've got the right color green. Cool. Okay. See you guys. Talk to you all later.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Nivindu. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.